welcome back. So welcome to Boca Vista. How are you doing today? So good to see all of you. Thanks for coming back and watching. And if you didn't come back, you didn't get to see this wonderful greeting, so shame on you. So Adam, how are you doing today? It's good to see you again.
That's great to see you, Steve. I'm doing very football-y
Very
today.
football-y. I told Adam, I was like, you look very football-y today, Adam. Because he does. Look at this guy.
I'm suffering from New Jersey syndrome.
He's wearing orange voluntarily. He has numbers and such all over himself. So yeah,
he's wearing orange voluntarily. It must be football related.
It must be football related, or either that or he was going to prison or lost a bet. I'm going to go and explain this now, so because people are going to see this. I'm drinking one of these Mountain Dew Hard Baja Blasts, which I've wanted to try forever. I'm not that impressed, but it is the zero sugar one. It's like
it's mandatory that you say Baja Blast like Hank Hill, though. Baja Blast.
Is that how Hank would say it?
Yeah.
Baja, boah. I think you're doing the boah that he does. Yeah. Boah, boah blast. Anyways, wow, we're getting way off track.
It's a sound bite that exists.
We're like 30 seconds into the show and it's already a mess. So we are, believe it or not, we are going to talk about Seinfeld today. That is on the docket
in some capacity. Yes.
Adam, final episode of season 1. How excited does that make you?
We are getting closer to bigger and better things.
Yeah. It's the first season of Seinfeld. Pretty rough watch. But I know some people, they have made the statement to me. These are more people that I know, like just in real life, that, when I talk about the show and whatnot, and I'm just like, man, these early seasons, early episodes are so rough, and there's like, oh, shame on you, because it's like, they were the building blocks that what got us to the later episodes, which I agree with them. And we've said that a lot on the show and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean that these episodes aren't still a rough watch, especially when you're watching them critically like we are. Yeah. You got to get past these to get on to Serenity,
but as you said before,
and the contest,
they're still good episodes.
Yeah, a bad episode of Seinfeld still better. I would rather watch that than Big Bang Theory or something like that. Jeez.
Oh, don't even say those words.
Yeah. So today we're on to the stock tip. Stock swap. Let's swap some stock. I just thought of that now. We're on to the stock tip, which, like I said, final episode of season 1. Vanessa, she's an accountant, right? Isn't that what her job is?
She's a lawyer.
Lawyer, that's right. No, lawyer. Makes a reappearance, so we get to see her again from episode 2. But no, the stock tip. The episode, as always, at least back in these old ones, kicks off with a stand-up segment. Now, Adam, you're the only person I can think of when I watch this, because Adam is a server,
yes.
Working in the service industry as a server. I want to know, how badly does this stand-up segment make you cringe?
I have actually witnessed does this look right to you?
Yeah.
I've witnessed that in real life several times. And I do feel like, at some point in my life, I feel like I've been the person that's like, this will be the greatest meal of our lives, and you're bringing in all the food and everything, like you just go ham out the gate. I've definitely been on both sides of that. I don't know if I've ever done does this look right to you? Because I feel like it's some capacity, what you're ordering, but
sure,
man, some people go buck wild and it definitely adds up at the end.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of what gets me about it, is like the whole thing of how, like, they sit down and it's like this epic meal that they're all going to have together. And when it gets to the end, just the, quibbling over little things on the check or whatever, and then wanting to discuss with the server whether the charges are correct and whatnot. And it's like, don't get me wrong. errors do take place, and I have eaten in a restaurant before where there have been errors that took place, and especially if it's a multi-party sort of meal, there's like, several couples or something like that, or families, like I've got 3 kids myself and a wife, and go with other families and then their children and stuff, and you got to make sure everyone's getting charged correctly for everything, and it can be a nightmare in some cases.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that people should take the injustice of being charged incorrectly, but that's not the way he's describing it, though. He's describing it of more like, we're unhappy with these charges because we already ate the food and now we're full, and now eating isn't this erotic experience or whatever, like we were thinking it was a minute ago.
It's funny that you say erotic experience, because it really can almost be like that, when you're talking about the egregious amounts of food that are coming. You're like, oh yeah, bring me another appetizer. Appetizer, me daddy.
Exactly. It's kind of funny how that works out, but yeah, every time I watch this opening segment, all I can think of is Adam's face standing over a table of people, like squabbling over who's paying for what and are these charges correct, and I have to pour one out for you, buddy.
Thanks, man. Not a lot of people understand that pain, because it is a thing.
There has to be some people in the legion of followers that watch this show that are also servers and have experienced things like this. We would love to hear some comments from you guys. More than anything, I love Adam's, and you don't really hear those so much on this show, but more in our Let's Plays. But like, I love hearing Adam's stories from work. They're so good.
The public never ceases to give me content.
I swear, if you ever have a job where you're working with people, you will never run out of things to talk about, because there is always something just bat crazy happening, which I've got some stories for you, but I'm going to share them after the show. The one thing that stood out for me, though, in this whole stand-up segment was when Jerry makes the statement about the cigarette butt and the mashed potatoes. That was a different time, man.
It was. And I had that mentioned as well.
Yeah. Like when you could smoke in restaurants.
Yeah, smoking and non-smoking.
Smoking, non-smoking. Ooh, what? Yeah. Being someone on the inside track of the restaurant industry, like how big of a difference does it actually make to sit 10 feet away from people who are smoking versus sitting 5 feet away from people who are smoking?
Practically zero.
We need to get C. Everett Koop on this show as well, so he can talk about. That's funny because Seinfeld mentioned C. Everett Koop, and I had that in my head for another. Even outside of watching in preparation for this show, I still watch the show for enjoyment, and I'm assuming you still do as well, right?
I do. It's my background as I get ready for work every morning still. Now, I will say that Steve takes it to a different level. Sometimes he'll message me and be like, so on this episode, I just noticed this. And it's like, at 8:30 at night. And I'm just like, are you watching Seinfeld right now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always the weirdest times.
Yes, I am.
And what's hilarious, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I've got something like that in my notes here. I did not text you about it, though, for some reason. Oh, my phone was dead. That's probably the only reason why I didn't text you about it. But I was watching it last night, and I've watched this episode however many times, and it was the first time I ever noticed this one thing. And so stick around through the rest of the episode to find out what that thing is.
And I think, it's good that we don't talk about anything of what we think about the episodes beforehand. So every time that we do these podcasts, it is originally like, like Steve mentioned, our methods are different of watching it. And so when they come together, it's like we don't have any kind of pre-rehearsal or any chronological order of how this goes. So it is very organic. So I think that kind of explains sometimes the haphazardness of things that go on.
Right.
But ultimately, though, I think that makes for a better show because, it's always like, hey, I had that too, or this is what I thought about it. And it's not like, all right, so when we get to the cafe scene, this is what we're going to do. Do our bullet points match?
At some
So.
point, when we finally start like a Patreon or something like that, we're going to release for the supporters. And Adam and I have talked about this, but the raw uncut episodes. Because if you watch our episodes closely, you'll notice I try to make them as seamless as possible. But you'll notice some parts where there are cuts in it. There are some episodes where I cut out a little bit just for pacing, and there's some episodes where I cut out entire conversations.
We've been known to tangent. We
Yeah.
go off on the tangents.
Tangents happen, exactly. But anyway, so short stand-up scene, and then boom, we're in the coffee shop, and it's interesting. I always kind of wonder why or how they planned this or why these choices were made, but you'll notice they're not sitting in the regular booth.
Right.
Now, of course, at this point in the show, there really is no regular booth. You know, they really hadn't started that one spot. And if you watch the show, you know what spot we're talking about. But they're sitting up against the window in this one. But having a conversation about Superman. Obviously, Jerry loves Superman. And whether Superman should have super humor. Jerry says yes. George says no. What's your opinion on the Superman should have super humor topic?
I'm kind of with, I think it was somebody mentions that they've never, I think it was George. He's like, I've never like seen him say anything funny or read him say, I think that's true. I don't think Superman was ever really known to be like that guy, like he was just like I'm the defender of the earth. And,
Right.
That's what I do. And I don't think it's possible for a super great Macho Man to be also like a killer on stage too.
Sure, yeah.
And also I think that Superman is referenced in every episode, right? Like moving on from is this the first time that Superman's mentioned? I feel like we would have caught it before this episode, but I think that like after this one, it's in every single episode in some capacity. If he's not mentioned, there's like a Superman doll
or
something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I that's a good point because and we've talked about them before on previous episodes, but you and I both actually are in multiple Seinfeld related groups on Facebook where these people do nothing but discuss the minutia of Seinfeld. And someone had just made a post about that the other day. So like to answer your question, I really don't know for sure, but I know that definitely is a thought that's out there. And I will definitely say that I've seen several evidences of Superman showing up, whether it's like he has like an action figure in the background or something. I can't recall if there's been any Superman related conversation prior to this on any of the other episodes, but
I don't think so, because I think we would have caught it.
Yeah. If Legion of Followers, if any of you out there know about this, please feel free to leave a comment. I think that you're correct though, that this is the beginning of Superman just having a constant presence in the show. Me personally, and again, there are some conversations that they will have in the show that are purely there as like TV show conversations. No one would really have this conversation or whatever. Or it's like, why are they talking about this thing now? Well, it's like, well, they have to do that because it's a television show and they have to have something to keep the plot moving. So I get that, but like the thing I don't get is like Jerry assuming that Superman would have to be funny because he's Superman and has like super strength and other super abilities. It's like, well, like, where does it end? Is he just super at everything?
At everything.
It's like, oh, Superman cooks a hell of an omelet. Where does the superness stop? He can leap tall buildings in a single bound. Laser vision. He can fly. Assuming that the guy's good at jokes
for the rest of us.
I know. Geez, Superman, calm the hell down. So yeah, I never really quite got that portion of it, but yeah, whatever.
I don't want Superman to be funny.
You know what's hilarious is, and I'm sure you've probably seen this because you're a big nerd like I am, but like
thank you.
Comic book people like to get in fights with people who only watch like the comic book movies, because a lot of the comic book movie people they're like, oh, Superman's the most boring superhero, blah, blah, blah. He's always good and he always does this. Now, have you ever seen these conversations before?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And then like the comic book people generally come back. It's like, bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about. Superman, if you read the comics, then blah, 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 blah. And it's like this whole back and forth and stuff like that of like how people perceive Superman. So like thinking in light of that conversation, and holding that up against the conversation about whether or not Superman would be funny. I don't know. That just kind of makes me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah. And that conversation, that's one that has definitely taken place in some way or another.
Sure.
That's been debated on an online forum somewhere.
Right. That's what forums are for, is these dumpster fire conversations.
Google that, bro.
Exactly. My next note is just Elaine drops a grape.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
So I have two things. First of all, I have, what is Elaine wearing?
True.
And it's like some Wild West frill cowboy-esque looking shirt.
Yeah, she's wearing the same shirt or jacket or whatever the heck it is, I believe, in the episode where the parking spot. I think it's called the parking spot.
Oh, where they can't find the car?
No. The one where George is trying to back into the parking space, and Mike Moffat. I can never remember that guy's name, and you always remember his name, so thank you. Yeah. So George is trying to back in, and Mike Moffat's trying to pull in head first into the spot. And I'm 90% sure that Elaine has that big frilly, like westerny jacket,
whatever that is,
yeah. Some questionable decisions were made in the wardrobe department.
It's like right up there with George's sweater from the previous episode. It was just like, why?
Or George's cowboy hat that he has. Oh, we haven't gotten to that one yet, I guess, actually. But yeah, no, some of them make some questionable decisions there. Jerry, oh gosh, man, yeah, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, it's good. That is hilarious that you pointed that out, because I did not think to write that down, but you're absolutely correct.
And I do feel like the dropping of the grape, that has to be like a real story. Like that happened to one of them, and they were like, I can't find this grape anywhere, and they're like, we have to put that in the show. Like, because it's so obscure enough that it has to be something that happened in real life. No one just thinks of that. Yeah. You know what we're gonna put in? We're gonna have Elaine drop a grape and not find it. What?
Have you ever had something like that happen? Because I have.
Yeah, for
sure. I don't know what it is about. Like the kitchen must have, like everyone's kitchen must have like a black hole or something like that. Because like I'll drop something
portal,
and it's like, oh, I need to get that out from under the cabinet in a minute here. Yeah. So I'll finish making my sandwich or whatever the hell, and then I'll like go down to pick up that thing, and then it's not there. And then I look like under the fridge, and it's not there. And then it's like, where the heck did this thing go? I just don't. Are there ghosts in the house that are eating the food that I dropped, or what?
Yeah, it's like the one angle that something would have to take for it to be in like the craziest spot that would be not visible from the naked of eye. It's like, the smallest chance in hell, and somehow it made that bounce when you dropped it.
Yeah, it's like physics.
Where's that luck in the lottery?
All right. Yeah, the story about the grape. It's kind of, if you watch now, of course, I've been watching the DVDs and you've been watching Netflix and stuff, but one thing that you notice in a lot of these older episodes especially is like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who plays Elaine, obviously, she just gushes over like the fact that we could have a TV show and have a conversation about me dropping a grape or something. It's just like, it was so wonderful, because it's like, it was stuff that nobody was doing. And it's like, this is the type of content that does not exist. We're either trailblazers or we're idiots that are going to lose our jobs pretty soon, because no one's going to understand what it is we're going for here. But no, you could tell that she really loved that sort of stuff, and you see that a lot in those behind the scenes kind of featurettes on the DVDs,
like the rubbing of the spoon on the nose.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
What's up with that?
I was watching that again last night with my daughter, and Elaine starts rubbing the spoon on her nose, and my daughter's like, what the heck is she doing? Having no idea. Now I knew that, but I also grew up in the 80s though, so like when you watch that, while you may have been puzzled as to why she was doing it, you knew what she was doing though.
Sure.
So it's like, it kind of makes me wonder, is that something that's sort of lost to time? you know, that we're
because no one else at the table bats an eye that she's doing
no,
it.
not
It's
at
just
all.
a
Yeah.
regular conversation. Just she's just trying to get the spoon to stick.
Yeah, no one's like, "What the hell are you doing, Elaine? You know, get that thing off
Could
your
you
nose."
not?
Yeah, okay, do you mind? You know, that sort of deal. But no, I remember. You know, I don't recall myself ever doing it, but I remember like sitting at like usually like you're going out to eat with like your parents, and then they've got another couple with their own kids, and you're sitting together at the kids table and stuff, and someone starts doing that. It again was very natural, but like for my kids, they see that and they're like, "What the heck is going on?" It's just a difference of the time, which that sort of stuff really fascinates me.
We didn't have social media. We had spoons.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't have video games on our tablets. We didn't have tablets. We didn't have phones. We didn't have the internet. We had dirt and rocks outside, and then we had spoons when we were at the table. It's pretty much it. So man, it makes us sound like cavemen the way we grew up, but
I don't know how we did it.
I don't know either, because now I'm like, oh wow, I would not want to go back to living that way. I don't know. Maybe I would. Maybe it wouldn't be so
Sitting
bad.
in the smoking section.
The smoking section. After this, Jerry, you know, because Jerry, he's like, I forget how he says it, but he's like, you know, don't cry, or well, you haven't been crying over the grape or whatever. And then he tells this story about how she needs to find that grape.
She needs to find it.
There's a mutant grape. And he tells this whole like long story about this guy, and the whole time, all I'm thinking to myself is like, what?
Elaine's face is priceless.
Exactly. That's why I have my notes. Is I'm like the way that because when he finishes that story, the camera's just boom, it's on her face, and she's just looking at him like,
why?
It's completely expressionless. She's not furrowing her brow. She's not wrinkling her nose. She's not looking at him like you're such an idiot. She just has a blank stare at him, because
which is like the perfect like reply to a story like that.
That's the stupidest. I'm like, this story is ridiculous. It's another one of those things where after we've watched so many of these episodes, I'm like, was that supposed to be funny? Or like, did someone think that was a joke? It's not. It's not.
Like, I was just waiting for her to say, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes from like, oh, are you crying over the grape? It's okay, to, well, you better get that
find
grape.
It.
It's like, whoa, where did we? And plus, it was so like there was like a whole conversation that takes place between the two things. So it's like, has the grape been manifesting in Jerry's mind this whole time? Like,
or Jerry's like, boy, I have got one heck of a story to
joke.
lay on her as soon as she's done jabbering about whatever she's talking about.
This joke is gonna slay.
This is gonna kill, baby. And then George, of course, he asks for the business section of the paper. He's flipping through it. Obviously, he sees whatever he's looking for to see. Asks Jerry, "Did you ever meet my friend Simons?" Okay, we're gonna pretend your last name's Johnson for a second here, so I don't dox you. But like, if I was to talk about you in conversation, I would be like,
"Hey, name big.
Did I ever tell you about my friend Johnson?" I would say, "Did I tell you about my friend Adam?" It's so weird that he refers to this guy as Simons, and then he talks about the other guy as Wilkinson, and I'm like, who are these people? What? Yeah, the fact that he like refers to them by last name and without any sort of context just seems so weird to me. And they do that through the entire episode. Why don't they explain who these people are or give their names or something? Did I ever tell you about my friend Simons? And then he knows Wilkinson. And then this.
Did you talk to Simons? Did you tell him? Or he's like, did you talk to Wilkinson? Did you tell him about Simons?
Did you tell him about Simons? Yeah. They continue that thread through the entire thing.
It is a very weird last name basis kind of deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like he's intentionally leaving off their first names, which is not a huge deal. It's another one of those things where it's like, this doesn't feel like natural conversation to me. But that's kind of what bothers me about it.
Now, I will say that it's ironic that you say the doxing thing, but like in high school and then growing up, like with some of my friends and stuff, I've been known solely as my last name.
Were there other Adams though?
Not always.
Yeah. I mean, referring to someone by their last name is not that big a deal, because I think we all do that, to a certain extent. especially if you got like a crew of buddies or whatever. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
you toss around,
But not in like a regular, casual adult conversation.
Yeah, it just felt really unnatural.
I agree with you.
And it just mismatched to the setting. But I always wondered about that, of like, why didn't they ever tell these guys' names? I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Legion of Followers, let us know in the comments.
I don't think that you're weird. I think that I agree with you that it is kind of a very stiff conversation with with just call them John and Andy or whatever the hell their names are.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's like, did you know Simons? I'm like, well, who the hell's that? Well, Andy. Oh, well, why didn't you just say Andy? I know Andy. I don't
You're
know
right.
Simon.
Exactly. Yeah, Simons. What? Centric.
Did you notice that George is back to knowing everything?
Oh, yeah.
With not only the stock tip, but also relationship advice. And when Jerry talks about going away, he's like, I'm thinking about asking her to go away for a few days. And he's like, oh, nope, you don't want to do that. Like, oh, 2 episodes ago or an episode ago, he was lamenting a woman having nothing to do with him anymore. But now he's back to being relationship expert.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got this note. George having successful friends and investing in the stock market. You know how much I hate successful George. Because it's like, this is another episode where it's like the way they position George, at least if nothing else, is that like he's a guy that knows stuff. And it's just so it's to me it's so maddening, because like I don't want a competent George, I want an incompetent George. The competent George isn't nearly as funny, and
the miscreant
pisses me off. The miscreant, you brought the word back. Boom. I'm gonna put miscreant across the screen really big. Bam.
That's a callback.
That's a callback. The George Centrex. They've got some new kind of technique for televising opera. Some kind of electronic thingy. Okay, again, this is another one of those situations where like let me take a step back. I kind of feel like, and there's going to be some other stuff in this episode, like the writers on the show were just sort of like, okay, we're almost done here anyways. No one's gonna pick this show up after 5 episodes. We got a 5-episode season order, and here we're talking about male unbonding and whatnot, or this show's going nowhere. So we're just gonna say it's like writer's room nonsense. Televising opera. Who the hell watches opera on the TV? Even in like hoity-toity New York. I'm a poor Midwestern boy myself, but even in New York, I would venture to say that some sort of device for televising opera is probably not going to be any sort of big groundbreaking moneymaker.
Definitely not a life-changing technology.
It's a Hyundai. We're getting ahead of ourselves there. But yeah, some kind of electronic thingy. This whole premise just grinds my freaking gears.
Why?
It's like, why? You could have taken 5 seconds to come up with something that actually made sense and lent some
believable.
Yeah, some credibility to the storyline, but no. Centrex makes it sound like they are making aluminum siding or something.
Or medicine.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Some new boner pills or whatever. No, they're making a device for televising opera that's an electronic thingy. Good Lord. I'm so ready to move on from season 1. Can you tell?
But also at the same time, millionaire Jerry can definitely throw in $2,500 for the stock. That's no problem.
All right,
fine, $2,500.
All right, fine. Yeah, I'm Elaine, where she's like, I would do it, but I don't have any money. That's my answer for most questions in life. I would do that thing, but I don't have money, so I won't.
Which again, Jerry and George have enough money to throw in $2,500 for the stock. Meanwhile, Elaine has admitted that she's penniless. And they're like not even buying her lunch or anything.
I know, right? It's like, what the hell? Yeah, I don't get that at all. The Seinfeld writing team apparently loves tuna. How many times has tuna come up in the show? And we're only on episode 5. I feel like it's come up a few times already.
Is Elaine an environmentalist throughout the show? I don't think so.
Well,
she makes it very much a point. I mean, I know the fur, right, later in the later episode, but like,
yeah, I've got a point about this too. is would that be eking her into the territory of being an SJW?
Ooh, we're treading dangerous waters here, my friend.
I know, right? Please don't cancel us. No, because she gets mad about the furs. She gets mad about the tuna. She gets mad about smoking. She gets mad. She gets mad about, like, the note that I had is Elaine's upset over the tuna. Is there anything she's not ready to get upset about? Oh, the abortion. Like, she got really up in arms about abortion, which I guess that's actually probably kind of true to life, but most people, like, at least. But no, it's like she is ready to die on every hill. It seems like
it's true.
But yeah, no, I thought that was so, not ordering the tuna because she's just upset about the tuna, and then George, I'll have the tuna. I kind of respected George a little bit more after that. After her going on that big spiel, Jerry kowtowing to her, and George saying, "Yeah, I'll have the tuna." Boom!
I will say that my favorite line of the episode is Jerry when he says that he does nice things. It's like, I let people in all the time. Go ahead. The way he does that whole thing.
Yeah.
That made me laugh because it's so, like, I don't know, nasally or just however he says, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm waving them in. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Ridiculous.
No, that was good. That got a laugh from me for sure. But yeah, as much as I hate successful George, or George
mic drop at the end,
still ordering the tuna, I was like, my man, get that tuna, baby. Oh man, cut to the grocery store.
So the one thing that I have most about this supermarket is I don't know New York that well, but I'm sure that a box of stovetop costs $20 in this grocery store. Whenever you see those little small, like, kind of grocery stores that aren't like the huge chains, like everything's
like a little mini mart
up to a ridiculous.
It's almost like a plussed up bodega, almost, because it's like I'm glad you mentioned this because I didn't have a note about it because I wasn't sure how to say it, but it's like, what in the world kind of market is this? It is freaking tiny, but like you had said, everything's probably really expensive because it's like a convenience market or something. So yeah,
and it's in New York. Actually, when I went to New York, probably back in like 2003-ish, 2004, somewhere in there. And I remember I was in Town Square and I got a pack of cigarettes and a 6-pack of Budweiser, and it was like $28.
Jeez.
For those two things. And this was
back
like
then. Yeah,
2003.
That's nuts.
And I was like, you've got to be pooping me. So I could only imagine a small grocery store like that in like New York City. That stovetop is $20.
Oh yeah,
Hands down. But that's okay because Millionaire Jerry
got it covered with his high-powered, high-paid lawyer girlfriend.
Do you have these in the puffs?
No puffs, just flakes. Two things. Number one, if you look at that guy's face, he looks so pissed at that question. And I don't know if it's just that's what his expression is. Day. No puffs, just flakes. I don't know why, but that always cracked me up. And like I said, he legitimately looks angry. But please don't. I hope no one pegs me as racist for asking this. But like, now that I'm thinking about it, and it's really based more on because I can hear his voice in my head saying that no puffs, just flakes. But like, is he the same guy who plays the Asian postman who Jerry asks where the Chinese restaurant is, and then he gets oh, why should I know? Most honorable, and goes on like this big, like, basically saying that Jerry's being racist against him because
man, you could be right. It could be the same guy.
I wonder if it might be him because this show reuses actors a lot. You'll notice that as if you watch all the way through, especially if you binge watch any of it, because like, hey, wasn't that guy in like 3 episodes ago? Coming up in the next season. Actually, I think it's the next episode. With Marlene. Marlene's back. Marlene was a main character in the ex-girlfriend, I think is what it's called. She like a main character in that episode. She's back in a future episode as the waitress at the coffee shop that George kind of gets a crush on, and she's all folksy with him and stuff like that. They reuse actors and actresses. don't know if there's maybe actor. I guess they're all actors now. Sorry, please don't cancel me.
Actor
But the actorati.
Yeah.
No, but they reuse them a lot in this show, and it makes me. I'm gonna have to go back and check now to see if it is that guy. If it is him or isn't him, I'm gonna put it right above my head right now.
I don't see anything.
Well, I'm gonna edit it in afterward, Adam.
I love that. The first time I ever did that, like I didn't hear anything. I know, Adam. I'm going to put it in
I'm
later.
gonna put it in later.
You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow.
You may have mentioned this. Did you do that on purpose, or were you joking, or were you?
The first time I ever brought it up, I legitimately was like, "Hey, man, I didn't hear it. If you played it."
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Is I'm like, did he like actually think it was going to show up, or was he just?
No, I was literally that dumb. At first.
So after no puffs, just flakes, Jerry goes into more conversation with Vanessa. And I had to make the point here is that Vanessa, up till this point, and even now in this interaction, is still a very endearing person. Like she's pretty, she's charming, she's funny, she's got a good sense of humor, seems smart, still a pretty endearing person.
I disagree.
Do what?
I disagree.
You disagree? Oh, really? Okay, lay it on me.
I think that Vanessa is a B word.
Really?
In this scene.
In this scene.
Well, just like when they're talking mainly about the stock
The
stuff.
stock, yeah.
And I think it's just the way that she's just so like, there is no more things after the stock closes. The stock is still down. It's like, first of all, I hate the way she says the word down. And that's just me being an asshole.
Oh, that's funny. I'm going to have to go back and watch it now.
She's like, the stock is still down.
The stock is still down.
It's funny you said down, though, because I will say that there have been other moments where she says certain things where I'm like, she's hiding an accent of some form. I can tell. I can't tell what, but she's hiding it.
Well, man, if that is the accent, then I hate her even more.
Down. It's that Boston accent that I love. Down.
And it's like, also, she's just like, your dreams are still crushed.
I will admit, it does kind of seem like she's talking down to him a little bit here.
Yeah.
So.
And plus, and so she's also been vacant from the past episode. I know it's kind of the way that the episodes were recorded and all that, so the timing's a little wonky. But to, basically assume that they've been dating this whole time, I feel like she's already moved into the the nagging person of the nagging part of the relationship, where it's like, don't check the newspaper again, your stock is still down, and do you think are we gonna go fishing on this trip, and all that, which also leads you to believe that Jerry's a fisherman. do you see Jerry Seinfeld out there with a fishing pole
fighting marlin?
Yeah, do you think
I love the way he pantomimes that? Oh, big fighting marlin.
I just don't see Jerry Seinfeld looking forward to a fishing expedition.
I see Jerry looking forward to a fishing expedition just as much as I see him walking over to some strange dude's driveway because he's fixing something with a screwdriver or whatever. I don't see either of those things happening.
Excellent point.
So, but yeah, that's a good point, though. I don't know where necessarily that fishing question came from. Maybe it's implied that they had talked about fishing before. Maybe she just asking about fishing. Who the hell knows? But
now, when they're talking about the movie theater, have you ever shushed anyone or have been shushed at a movie theater at some point in your life?
It's funny because I had a conversation with my daughter about this yesterday. It's like, and I'm not saying this at all to pat myself on the back or anything, because I'll explain in a second here, but I'm an extremely considerate person. Now I can be an ass about plenty of things, so I'm not saying I'm a great guy, but I'm an extremely considerate person to where I will inconvenience myself. I will even hurt myself, not necessarily physically, but do things that are detrimental to my own self just because I'm trying to be conscientious toward the other person. And I've had people tell me this all my life, and usually, and they're saying it bro, you got to stop acting like this because it's only bad for you, So, all of that to say, the thought of being so loud in a movie theater that I had to be shushed would never enter my head.
Right.
I can't recall, however, though, if I've ever had to shush anybody. I will say that
You don't strike me as a shusher.
yeah, there have been plenty of times where I wanted to. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now you do strike me as somebody that would just not even watch the movie and focus on hating the person behind you because you couldn't shush them.
Bro,
That sounds like something you would do.
you know me so well. And then I'll make fun of them behind their backs for endlessly. You know,
Yeah.
and
They
like
will
if
always be
anything,
the asshole that talked during the movie.
if anything, it gives me a really great story to share in another context. So while I am frustrated, I'm not really that mad. But no, I
Yeah.
will say the worst scenario of this that I ever experienced was Jurassic Park. Like, how long ago did that come out? I mean, I went to the theater to see Jurassic Park, and there was a family that brought their like infant, maybe toddler age kid, and the kid just freaking wailed. And it's like, you know, people are getting like their bodies ripped apart by dinosaurs in this movie, correct? What sort of an are you to not know that, you know? Or if you did know that, how big of a moron are you to still bring your little kid to it? Yeah. So, but again, here I am telling you that story, what, like 20 years later, 30 years later or something.
Yeah.
But at the moment, no, I didn't say anything. It's just like, yeah, get that kid out of here. Sheesh, you know, and I'm like sweating it, but yeah, no, that's about as far as it went for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've never shushed anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like you, am extremely considerate of other people. And the fact that if I were to ever be shushed in a movie theater, it would be mortifying to me. But I will say I was a very different person when I was younger. And I did remember getting shushed during Scream 2 when I was
Scream 2.
when I was probably like 14 years old.
Oh,
You know, and I
man,
was, you
yeah.
know, like talking through the movie and like, you know, I can totally see myself. Like, I want to travel through time and punch past Adam.
If there was like a
way.
line graph to represent how considerate you are as a person, and I'm not, when I say you, I don't mean you, I mean just people in general.
In general, yeah.
I would say at the age of 14 is when it just bottoms out because you're like, you are so obsessed with nothing but yourself at that age.
For sure.
You're blinded to any sort of consideration or conscientious treatment of others.
Yes.
But yeah, Jerry and the whole, like, I turned around and gave him the eye roll.
Yeah, the eye roll.
Jerry's really great with the eye roll.
Yeah, I can totally see, you know, Jerry's already proven that he's so good at confrontation that probably the turn and the eye roll is all he's got when it comes to getting somebody to be quiet at a movie theater.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't even break up with his best friend. Or not even his best friend. Well, he's Joel's best friend.
Well, and he gave him George's ticket. I mean, come on.
Well, that's true. That he bought.
That he bought, probably, right? Because he's rich Jerry or millionaire Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry talking about the bed and breakfast that they would go off to, having the separate faucets. I freaking hate the separate faucets. Have you ever been in a place that has the separate faucets?
I have separate faucets.
You do?
I do, yeah. I
In your
didn't
house?
think it was weird at all. Yeah.
In your house, like in your bathroom, or like are they everywhere? Or?
Yeah, so it's not just like one universal turn. Like there's one that's for the left, and then there's, you know, one for the right. Like they're separate.
Okay, well, let me make sure we're being clear on this. Now, when I say separate faucets, I'm not talking separate handles. I mean, there's two faucets. There's one that lets out only hot water and one that lets out only cold water.
Oh, I did not get that from that.
Okay, well, that's an insanely antiquated, you know, approach to the faucet. Let me say, they have not made those in forever. Probably because they're ridiculous and, you know, massively inconvenience and don't have any sort of like real world application that actually really fits for them. You want hot water, just turn the thing to hot.
Or maybe it was like the vintage appeal of the place.
Well,
it does look pretty antiquated.
Yeah. I think it is the vintage appeal, and that's why Jerry was billing it. But the whole time I'm just thinking, I'm like, is that really a selling point? But maybe he's just trying to put apart, oh, this place is really quaint and it has, you know, antiquated things all over the place that you can see that you won't see in other places. And that's just kind of how he's positioning it. But
the Victorian era-esque.
This is more me just editorializing on how much I hate those faucets. They're awful.
I mean, I see. I was just looking at it from the angle of like a single turn knob, and I'm like, well, no. Why is it having separate a big deal?
Yeah.
Again, I guess I'm just oblivious to.
Well, my great grandmother had separate faucets in her house. I'll never forget this.
Oh wow!
But again, it's a very old house, for a very old woman. But yeah, I remember always being like, "What is this? I'm either freezing or burning myself." It's like, this is not good. This is not convenient whatsoever.
So you would not enjoy your stay at this bed and breakfast?
No. I would never book that bed and breakfast. No. I want to book that Seinfeld bed and breakfast.
we are doing that, man.
We need to figure that out.
Find a way. We will find a way.
We'll start a GoFundMe. Maybe a legion of followers can contribute to send Steve and Adam off to the Seinfeld Airbnb up in Ohio.
Which is actually just a stone's throw from where I live.
Yeah, and it's like a month, I think, until it opens or so. It's like beginning of April, I want to say, is what they said.
Yeah, that's
getting close. So back at Jerry's,
it looked pretty cool.
It did look awesome, and there's a Friends one too, isn't there?
There's a Friends one too.
Yeah, I don't care about that, but still pretty cool idea. But,
still pretty sweet.
I'm sure people who are really excited about that lame show would probably love going to that one. So there you go. If you're interested, go check it out.
Google that, bro.
Google that, bro. Are you quoting me when you say that? I think I said that to you one time when we were talking about something in a Let's Play.
It was when we were having that conversation over like, when is it appropriate in a conversation to say, man, just Google it.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh man, the whole "let me Google that for you" thing, the most passive aggressive.
But yes, the most.
Ever.
Hey.
Thing you could
Seriously, you can't do that and not be at least 75% a prick to the other person. Here, let me send you this helpful article. So they're back at Jerry's apartment.
Yes.
The thing I'm confused, I've never gotten about this, and I know it's all for laughs, but like, why is Kramer so excited about Jerry failing? He's so happy to see them just losing money on this stock. And if anything, you would think he would be bothered by it because he's constantly eating Jerry's food and drinking Jerry's drinks, and he needs Jerry to have money.
That's true.
But no, he's just like so just giddy over Jerry losing money. I never got that.
Well, I think it's because he just like, Kramer strikes me as like a conspiracy theorist kind of guy. And with the whole, like, where he makes the comment, like, it's all fueled by junk bonds. You can't win, and all that. It's almost like he is like,
you don't even know what a write-off is.
They just write it off.
And they're the ones who are writing it off.
That whole conversation is great.
I love it.
But where he's like, you can't win on it, and so like Jerry's like, well, I know, but like I'm taking a risk, and all that, and then like when it's not doing well, it almost as Kramer is almost like being validated by every time Jerry is losing more. Like, see, I told you. It's like an I told you so kind of thing. I feel like, but he's like, one thing that I don't understand is, why are you enjoying this?
Yeah.
And you can just see, like, Michael Richards' face. It's almost like he has no explanation either. He's like, I don't know, but I just like it.
You just see smiling from ear to ear the entire time. I get that it's supposed to be funny and all that. And I mean, maybe it kind of is, but like, I always got like, I'm like, they're friends. Why is he like celebrating his friend's downfall? I never got that. But, the one thing though is the stock thing, and somehow tied to Kramer's gambling problem. And is that why he's pushing Jerry so aggressively to sell? Now, at this point, they haven't talked about Kramer having a gambling problem. But those of you who've watched the show understand that and know that from future episodes. So it's like, the thing that gets me, like, he's on the phone with, I think it's with George, and Kramer's like, sell it, and he's really driving him to sell it, and it's just almost like, geez, dude, come on, calm down here a little bit. Makes me wonder if it's not somehow tied to his gambling addiction.
Wow, that's a deep thought.
Yeah,
deep thought with Steve.
That was
my like wooden teeth dreaming conversation.
So go back and watch the stakeout episode, and you'll see where Adam blew everyone's minds with the most earth-shattering revelation about the wooden teeth dream that Elaine had.
It'll be my shining moment of the whole podcast. Will be in the first episode.
We'll maybe link to that episode at the end of this one or something. So, but yeah, it always made me wonder if that wasn't tied to his gambling problem. I get that Kramer is still an idiot at this point in the show, that he hadn't quite evolved into what he eventually turned into. But the rollout tie dispenser has to be the stupidest idea I have ever heard.
I like the pizza place idea better than I like the tie dispenser
I was
idea.
thinking the same thing last night as I was writing this down, as I'm like, the pizza place where you make your own pie, also really terrible idea. But I would
suddenly sounds a lot better.
Yeah, when you hold it up next to the rollout tie dispenser, it's like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. And have you tried to picture what this thing would actually look like? And I'm like, it would have to be like this gigantic roll around your neck. You would look like one of those St. Bernards that go around the mountains with the big barrel underneath their chin or whatever. That's what you would look like wearing this gigantic thing, and then you just rip off the top.
A picture of one of those.
But yeah, I'll make sure to have one up on the screen. Yeah, terrible idea, and I just do not get. And what I love is that his idea wasn't to do anything like, oh, I have this thing that'll get the mustard out of your tie. It's like, no, you need a ginormous contraption to go around under your chin that has multiple backup ties. So you just rip off a tie, and
that would all match the outfit that you're wearing.
Exactly.
They would all have to be similar schemes and whatnot.
Yeah, this is some sort of pothead ingenuity here. Of like,
you'll
just tear it off.
Like another tie, dude.
Yeah, if you're a tie wearing type of guy, man, I'm not.
But if I was,
I would
have like multiple ties.
No, I got some Taco Bell on my tie. Rip.
Problem solved, dude. Dishes are done, dude.
The Kramer trying to sell Jerry on letting anarchists stay in his apartment
and use his bed.
And it cracks me up that he brings in the fact that they're anarchists almost as like a clincher, like a final selling point of why Jerry should let them stay in his apartment. I'm like, do you think that's how anarchists are, right?
They want the world to burn. They'll be fine.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, I'm sure there are nice anarchists out there. I'm sure they're not all terrible, but they're anarchists, Jerry. Let them sleep in your bed.
I know, it goes right from like, let me just use your apartment to they're also going to be sleeping in your bed too.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Thanks, man. Did you notice that the Porsche car, the baseball cards, and the cactus, all three still in Jerry's apartment?
Yep.
The car is not moved except for when it was stolen and replaced.
Jerry and those Porsches and that big phallic cactus over in the corner.
Big phallic weird ass cactus.
I'm going to have to pay extra closer attention as we go forward in the next few episodes as we go on to season 2 as to like, when did the cactus disappear? Because I don't think it stayed forever. I really don't think.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, because if it does, I'm going to feel really stupid. So
I love Jerry's. You got to respect the tucked in button down into the jeans with no belt.
Yeah.
That's a bold look.
That is
not everybody can pull that off, man.
It's bold look. Some might say stupid look.
It doesn't say 90s,
terrible look. Yeah.
Nothing more 90s than a tucked in button down and a pair of denim with no belt.
No belt. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is a 90s look. Big time though.
For sure.
So going to the dry cleaner. It's funny because this is such a short scene, and I'm pretty sure that literally nothing important happens in this scene to the show or to the plot at all. But this is one of my favorite scenes. This may be
your favorite side character, right?
Yeah. I forgot we talked about this. Yeah. This scene, I freaking love it for so many reasons. But since you already mentioned it, of all the peripheral characters in the show, the dry cleaner guy. No, you're good. The dry cleaner guy is someone I wish we would have seen more of. I love this scene and I love this guy.
He does a great job of like being the guy like, it's not my problem. You don't have a receipt? Sorry, can't help you.
Yep. George, before they start talking to the dry cleaner guy, Jerry and George are talking while they're waiting in line. And then Jerry steps forward to talk to the dry cleaner guy. And George was like, man, I've got to go to the bathroom so bad or something. And he turns around and there's an old woman like right there in his face. And again, even that, I'm just like, that's so funny. And it's because it's embarrassing for George. And like how often, I mean, not necessarily talking about having to go to the bathroom, but like how often does that happen where like the person you're talking to just walks off and you're just either talking to nobody or you're talking and you look over and it's some random stranger that you don't know and you've been confessing all these things to them or whatever.
Yep. Been there.
Very believable situation.
Very believable situation.
But yeah, I thought that was so funny. And discussing with the dry cleaner, Jerry. And I get like this about things too, where I'm like, I don't even care about the money. I just want you to admit that you're the one that screwed up here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we've all been in the situation where it's just like, what, you think this is a scam where I'm just taking this tiny shirt around, like, no, I don't even give a shit about the money at this point. I just want you to admit that you did me over here, man. Sometimes that's all you need. Like, I just want to hear it, the validation. Mm-hmm. That's more valuable to me than the money.
Exactly, yeah. The dry cleaner guy, his delivery of 3 words, I shrunk it. The way he says I shrunk it is like probably a top 10 moment for the entire series in my mind. It's like, that's why I wish it's like, if he can nail that line so freaking hard, he should have been a recurring character in the show, but I don't know. I love that guy.
Yeah, because it works on different levels. It's the admission of guilt, but also like, are you happy now? Kind of thing. It's like, wow. And
like he looks over Jerry's shoulder to see if the old woman in line with George is going to hear him. He's like, I shrunk it. What are you going to do, bitch?
Look at it. It's a hand puppet.
It's a hand puppet. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And like, the only thing that I really have that we haven't discussed with this is I feel like this is dry cleaning reference number 3,496 since the show started. Like, we get it. They dry clean some
dry cleaning and tuna. That's all this show's about. Dry cleaning and tuna.
Man, we're taking it to the dry cleaning. We're picking up the dry cleaning. We're going back to the dry cleaners because they messed up our shirt that we dry cleaned 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
My word, he's doing stand up about dry cleaning.
Yep. Yeah, and what's hilarious is thinking that there's even more to come. And like it's the focal point of entire episodes, even. It's ridiculous.
Dry cleaning is big.
These people love to dry clean, apparently.
I've never dry cleaned a thing in my life.
The next, then it goes on to a stand-up sequence. This, I will say, is one of the few stand-up sequences in these early episodes that I really find truly funny. Like I said, a lot of these in the early episodes, it's like, I don't know what it is. Things are just not firing on all cylinders yet. But this stand-up scene is legitimately funny. And specifically, like the opening line of Jerry saying, like, the only reason why I go to the dry cleaner anymore is so I can say, well, it's ruined. It's like, that is really good. And for them to say, well, it's not our fault. But yeah, that the solid stand-up sequence. And like I said, it's ruined. It legit gets me every time.
Is he wearing the same blazer that you hated in this stand-up?
In episode 2?
Yeah, I was like, is this a recurring blazer? I probably could have done my homework and checked, but I was like, I think that's the same one.
That's a good question, man. I do not know. Right off the top of my head, I don't know. So we'll put that on the screen right here.
I'm gonna be wrong
whether it is or not. No, and that blazer, to clarify, I did not hate that blazer. I just thought it looked very, very early '90s looking.
Yeah, it's like the shirt tucked into the jeans,
or the mohair sweater, like that sort of thing. It's like, oh, that's from that time period. Like you could see it and not even know, but you'll know what era that particular TV show takes place in if you see someone wearing that thing.
For sure.
Back at Jerry's, Elaine talking about her boyfriend with the cats.
Yes.
Jerry postulates $14 that it might cost to have a hit put out on a cat. Would you kill a cat for $14, Adam?
No, I absolutely would not. And the note that I have down here for that is, so Elaine doesn't want Jerry to eat tuna, but she's got no problem with assassinating cats. Like,
which is really the perfect way to sum up people that live their lives like that. This may be a spicy take here or whatever, but who cares? We're a small channel. No one's ever going to see this. But like these people that want to die on every hill, you know, like Elaine, are typically the biggest hypocrites when it comes to stuff like this. Like they won't eat tuna because maybe there's dolphins getting caught in the nets, but they would turn around and like be okay with a cat getting killed or something. That drives me nuts. That's why I just generally, those type of people, I just have a hard time trusting them because it's like,
if it means that Elaine can keep the boyfriend, then the cat's life is completely meaningless.
Right.
You know? And let's not forget the attachment that the guy has to the cats, because he ultimately chooses the cats over her. So she's completely fine with causing this man emotional trauma as long as they can continue to date.
So is this the genesis of Pet hating Elaine? You think?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay. So she has a problem with the guy with the cats. In a later episode, she has a problem with the guy with the dogs, who's the wake up guy that eats Grandma Mima, or he puts Grandma Mima's napkins as kerchiefs around the dog. Yeah, thanks for mutton. Well, then the dog in the courtyard or whatever. Yeah, Lane just is not real good with pets. There's the dog in the when they're in the eyeglass shop that bites her.
What's the one where it's like literally it's like on the other side of her apartment wall, and she keeps banging on the wall like
it's that's the one with the cat
meat slicer.
Yeah, there's a cat that lives next door, and it's meowing and it's driving her crazy.
That's what it is.
And then they, like you said, the meat slicer, they put the meat under there and stuff like that. So yeah, Elaine really not okay with animals.
Yeah.
So, but she's ready to jump.
But loves tuna.
But loves tuna. Yeah, tuna and dolphins or whatever. They're getting caught in the nets. George goes to the hospital to visit Wilkinson, which is a total George move.
Yes.
You know, he wants something, he needs something, he's gonna go to the hospital to make sure that he gets it.
Yeah, and so like I just have like George is a psychopath. I have that written down because I feel like that's just something that someone would do where they're just like such a crazy behavior, but it's very normal to them. Mm-hmm. You know, like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go to the hospital and talk to this guy. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this stock thing.
That I've been watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm lately, and that's a big Larry David move right there.
For sure. Like, I just have to find out. I gotta go talk to him. Why is that weird?
Why is that? Yeah. It's a legitimate question, you know.
You can hear it already.
Yeah,
you know?
Seriously. Or like George asking for the change from the tolls as he's standing in front of Susan's father's burning cabin. You know, the guy just like, read the room.
Larry David does not read the room.
No. Yeah, and it's fun. I've been enjoying watching it so much, but at the same time, I don't know if you, and I know you and I both are big fans of the show, big fans of Larry David and Seinfeld. Do you ever find, and I'm assuming you have binged probably Curb at some point or another, but do you ever find that when you binge that show that like you start to absorb Larryisms?
Yes.
Because you and I both have bits of Larry David in our own personalities, and I feel like when I watch too much of that show, it triggers those things in me. So I legitimately will like consciously not watch too much of it in one go, or I'll start to be like, oh my gosh, why did I say that, or why did I do that? It's because Larry David's creeping out.
He's on your shoulder whispering in your ear.
It's like, telling you ask him. It's a fair question. Their father just died, but you know,
why is that weird?
Again, Kramer's celebrating Jerry losing more money.
Yes. There's that smile again.
There's
He's
that
just
smile,
like,
and he's got that big goofy grin. Big phallic cactus still in the corner.
and then goes right to being a sleazeball and ogling women from the street with binoculars.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned this because this was the thing I was talking about earlier. I don't recall anything, and I've rewatched this episode so many times, and I'm like, am I just literally skipping over it every time? But I don't think there's anything in the show that sets that up at all. It's just like they're sitting there, and then in the next minute, Kramer's oogling women out the window with a set of binoculars. Where did that come from?
Yeah. It's like so out of place. There's no rhyme or reason for it other than for him to have an excuse to leave the apartment when he's like, I'm just going to go try to talk to her. Like, well, we got to find some way to get Kramer out of the apartment, guys. What are your ideas?
Yeah.
Let's just have him stare at women with binoculars.
Leering at women out the window. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe this is part of the writer cash-in, you know, what you were talking about earlier. Like, we don't give a
We don't give it. You're right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what can we have Kramer do? Let's have him staring at women out of the window and with binoculars. That's not creepy at all. It's not definitely not like we want people to like these characters and continue to watch this show. Let's make one of them a sex pervert.
Yes.
I only say that because I don't know why, but it cracks me up anytime anyone says sex pervert, because it's like, is there another kind of pervert? Like an automotive pervert or baking pervert? It's like, why do they call him sex perverts?
Well,
it's
there is food porn.
Yeah. I hate it when people use porn after any term. It's like, oh, this is food porn. Oh, this is video game porn. Oh, this is like, shut up. You sound edgy, okay? We all get it. Believe it or not, I have not watched any Curb Your Enthusiasm today. Like I said before, I'm not saying I'm a great guy. I'm just a conscientious person. But yeah, it just shocked me that like the whole Kramer leering at these women with binoculars, it's like, where in the world did that come from? And there's never been any inkling of anything like that up until this point. So
sure, you're very correct there. It's weird.
So cut to the Airbnb. Jerry says at the end of the scene in the apartment that he's like, that's it, I'm out, I'm selling the stock. And that he wants to get away for the weekend with Vanessa off to Connecticut?
Vermont.
They're all the same. Just a bunch
they
of white
all have
folk.
that Boston accent, the ignorant Boston accent.
That ignorant Boston accent. Clip that. So they're at the B&B. The situation is uncomfortable, but the fact that it's raining makes it extra uncomfortable for me. I freaking hate the rain. But I think they did it because it like gives you more of that like boxed in feeling for Jerry and Vanessa, because like it's raining, they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything. But yeah, oh man,
I say BS on that. Like, I think the whole thing is dumb. Like, so just because it's raining, right? So they're in a different spot, this Airbnb. Just because it's raining, they have nothing else to do but sit across from each other in the common area of the bed and breakfast that they're staying in. First of all, nobody stays in the common area that's not under 9,000 years old.
Exactly.
In a bed and breakfast. Secondly, if it's raining, there's still plenty of things to do. Go out and check out some of the restaurants that are in the area. Maybe go have a cocktail together. You could go see a movie. I mean, there's all kinds of things for them but sit there. It's almost like they have no connection as a couple whatsoever. And that the only thing that's saving them is the ability to go outside during sunny weather. They don't enjoy each other's company. They have nothing to talk about. You know, they're going away for the weekend, but they can't stand it if they have to be together. You know, like it's like the whole premise is dumb. You know, like
No,
So
I
was just like,
get that. I agree with that. And yeah, there's no way in heck that if I had an Airbnb, well, first of all, there's no way in heck I'm spending any time in the freaking common area. Good Lord.
0% chance.
No, no. I've stayed in a bed and breakfast with my wife before, and I guarantee you it was a beeline from the front door to our room anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing that would make me want to do that. I will say they definitely did a good job of making this just feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, because almost like they hate each other already, when they're talking back and forth.
And they're sitting so far from each other, even there's nothing about this that says this is a happy couple.
And you would have to be happy to a pretty solid degree to want to go out on a trip. It's Jerry's idea to go on the trip, so he must be like, I can enjoy hanging out with this person for a couple days. Oh nope, it's raining. I hate her.
It's raining and I hate her. After they've been down there and the scene's been going for a few seconds, the manager or the owner or whatever the Airbnb walks by and Jerry gestures and, oh, do you want me to talk to him about getting a different room or something like that? That guy who plays the owner or the manager or whatever was just in another episode of the show, just recently. Now I can't, wow. I'm going to have to go back. I didn't notice that until today. So I'm gonna have to go back and try to figure this out. Hopefully I can figure it out before I edit this episode. But no, he was in another episode very recently, either prior to this episode or in a future episode. But he's definitely in another one though. But again, like we said, they reuse actors a lot in this show. Yeah. There's so many actors that had multiple parts in the show. So I'm sure there's an internet article an internet article out there about that. I'm sure if you Google that, you can find something. Google that.
Google that shit, bro. Do you think that Vanessa is not the worst in this scene? I can't tell you what perfume, it is. And maybe that's why we're in this room. And I told you that the market fluctuates. I told you I was right. It's almost like she's just really drilling him, and I mean, of course, Jerry's obviously not helping with, oh, that's a nice watch. You wind that? I mean, he's not really bringing a lot to the table either.
Do they still make watches that wind?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Vintage, yeah, possibly.
There's a vintage market for everything.
But I love the way she said, no, there's a little battery in there. It's almost like she's saying, there's a little man in there that he puts the time up.
Little hamster. The wheel.
No, there's a little battery in there. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Science. But no, I am so confused by her in this scene. Because the entire time that they're talking, she just seems kind of like, well, what can we do? It's raining and, well, this and that. Very oddly, or no, maybe not oddly pleasant, but pleasant in an odd way in that it feels weird. But she's very pleasant until it gets to the point about the perfume. And then when he asks the thing about the perfume, she's like, I can't tell you. And you can tell that Jerry's bothered by that as well. And then he checks the stock page and realizes, and then she goes, oh, well, I told you not to sell. And he's like, you did not tell me not to sell. And she's like, I told you the market fluctuates. And he's like, everyone knows that's what that market does, is it fluctuates and stuff.
He's got a point.
Oh, absolutely. She has made zero earth-shattering points on anything. And again, kind of like we were talking about before, is that it really sort of feels like she's talking down to him. But then the part where she says, she mutters under her breath, well, I guess that's why we're staying here or something. And then Jerry's like, no, what'd you say? She's like, oh, nothing. No, what'd you say? She's like, well, I guess that's why we're staying here. Or however she says it. But I've still don't think I understand what she's trying to tell him in that. Is she saying that they're staying there because he didn't have enough money to get him a nice place?
That's how I took it.
That's how you took it? But even that still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what it is, but I never understood that. But I also, it's like at the drop of a hat right there, she suddenly turns like this aggressive, essentially. And from that point out, it's like, whoa, man, screw this chick, But I wonder what was going on inside of her there, because like she took a hard left turn with her attitude as soon as they got on to talking about the stock tip.
Yeah, and why couldn't she tell him what the perfume was called? It's a secret?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah,
Is
I
it
don't.
Victoria's Secret?
Was
it a big brain joke that just Jerry didn't get?
No, the perfume is actually called. I can't tell you that. That's what it is. It's like Who's on First, you know. Except the perfume.
Oh, it's an Abbott and Costello.
You hold up the perfume and the bottle says, "I can't tell you that."
I can't tell you that.
No, yeah, I don't know. That was ridiculous. But yeah,
again, it's almost like they just don't even like each other at all. Mm-hmm. Like the whole time that they're there, it's just super weird.
Well, and it's interesting because like in that moment, after they finish that very brief exchange, you can tell that their relationship is nothing. You know, yeah. It was hanging by a thread. They just didn't even realize it. And then
thanks, Rain.
Exactly. Whoa, way to go, Rain. Ruined my relationship. It's like this wouldn't have happened if you would have left the common area and just gone to your hotel room and had sex. You know, that's why any normal person would do when they're getting away at a B&B. You know, it's like, well, it's raining outside. Strip down.
Shucks.
Yeah. But you realize really quickly that their relationship is just nothing. And then Jerry, and you'll notice this a lot more in these older episodes, there are several jokes about really dark things that I don't think that they would do if they made the show nowadays. Like Jerry makes the comment about maybe I can get an extension cord and hang myself.
Yeah.
Or there's like a stand-up scene in a later episode where he like describes like, oh, people, what's the deal with these people who try to commit fail and then don't do it again? And he's like, what, did you fail at that too or something? Or why can't you be persistent? Why can't you finish anything or whatever it is that he says? And it's just like, he jokes about some really dark in some of these old episodes, and this one is another one where he makes that comment. So
I thought when I heard that stand-up too, I was like, wow, that's dark.
He goes in that same, and like a lot of these episodes, they're little snippets kind of ripped from his actual stand-up routine. I don't know, I mentioned it before. His stand-up album called I'm Telling You for the Last Time is phenomenal. But he goes like a lot more in depth on that whole joke on that one. And it's just like, at the time I remember laughing at it, but I think now just because our culture is so sensitive to things like that, I hear it now and I'm like, oh man, whoa, that's like, because I mean, you can't even say, actually, may have to edit out the times that we've said the S word, unaliving yourself, because you can get like YouTube will fuck with your video and stuff because you've got you said the S word instead of saying unaliving. We're not monetized or anything like that, but I mean, heck, I mean, maybe it would bury us in the algorithm or something, you know, if I don't. So maybe I'll have to edit that. I don't know.
Wow. I learned something today.
Weird,
this has been an educational experience.
So back at the coffee shop again, I hate Successful George. Just sitting there with his feet up and, you know, oh, just get whatever you want. And I'm like, you're at like a crappy coffee shop, George. It's not like
I think he's like standing over the table. It almost made me feel like he was like shooting craps or something at the table with his cigar. And so I'm like, come on, get everything.
Oh, get some dessert. Don't finish it. And then, and it's, it still cracks me up though, because it's like, George, you're at the coffee shop. You're not at some classy upscale eatery like Olive Garden or something like that.
The Olive Garden.
Get whatever you want. Don't finish it. Oh, yeah, but no.
Go ahead. Get another grilled cheese sandwich from the diner.
You know how much I hate Successful George.
But see, like he's smoking a cigar here, and doesn't he hate cigars? Like he gives away the Cubans.
Yeah.
That he gets. He doesn't smoke, obviously, because when he does that bit with Susan later, like he's like smoking. He's obviously miserable the whole time. So it's weird to see him in this scene where now he's just like he's loving the cigar in the middle of a coffee shop, which is like the weirdest place to smoke one. And I'm just like picturing what that must smell like, because man, cigars smell horrible. I feel like.
Yeah, it's like an acquired taste thing, I think. because I mean, cigars, I don't know that I would say that I hate the smell of cigars, but I definitely don't love it either. Pipe tobacco, on the other hand, ooh, muy delicioso. Cigars. And like you said, smoking a cigar in a coffee shop is a really weird context in which to be smoking a cigar. But
Right.
But that's where the gang goes, and I'm assuming that's why they wrote it that way in the show. And like you said, the way that he's like standing over everybody, it just kind of adds to that sort of like, oh gosh, to the scene. You can tell that George is
To the victor goes the spoils, kind of
to
thing,
the victor belong the spoils.
Yeah.
But George is really wanting to live it up here and, show that he made some money and he did good. And I hate him for it. So
And I hate him for it.
Elaine's boyfriend picks the cats over her and everyone is shocked.
Yeah.
Does that not
Is it
seem
really that shocking though?
like,
I mean,
of course I'm married, so I'm not dating. What a weird thing to say. But like, if I was dating someone, and I don't have a dog right now. I have had dogs, but my dog died about a year ago. But like, if I had a dog and they were like, "Would you get rid of your dog?" I'd be like, "No, he was here first.
Yeah,
you get out. You deal with it, or just leave." I'm not.
Maybe they're allergic to you. You ever thought of that?
I don't understand the concept of like someone giving up a pet.
For sure.
For like a boyfriend or girlfriend, but I don't know, maybe we're more pet people than other folks. Leave us a comment if you disagree. But like the fact that they were just shocked and like making fun of her of, oh, he picked the cats over you. It's like, I would be surprised if he didn't pick the cats over her.
Yeah, I would think
the guy's a
douche if he got rid of the cat.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I think I would like be, man, what a prick, just to get rid of your pets over a girlfriend that you may or may not have a relationship that goes anywhere with. I don't know. I thought that was really an odd choice. But again, they can't make the jokes at her expense if they don't have that comment, and they need jokes because it's a comedy show. I think this kind of goes back to the whole we're just kind of phoning it in because this is our last episode before the end of the season and we have no hope of getting picked up whatsoever. I don't know. That's where my brain lands with it.
George really likes Superman because he brings him up, and like a nice little dig to Jerry too. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you just have him? Don't you wish he was here to go back in time and fix all your problems and your stupid decisions?
Yeah.
Thanks, George. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. George with the dig.
For being friends, these guys really don't cheer on their friends.
It was in that whole, no, they don't, which I think is funny, but like, and I'm not going to say that. I'm going to save that for future episodes, but, no, when I was watching this show last night, in my mind, I was thinking, I'm like, George is going on that big Superman thing to Jerry, and then it cuts to Jerry, and Jerry's got like this ha-ha kind of funny smile on his face, and I'm just like, wow, Jerry's taking this really well. And I'm not a violent person. I know I told that story where I punched a guy one time, but like that's not a common thing for me, and I was in high school. But in my mind, I'm watching that scene last night, and I'm like, how great would it have been if Jerry would have just socked him right in the face, like halfway. He's like, oh, Superman with his super speed. And like George's nose is bleeding and one of his teeth are knocked out. His glasses go flying. And then he's like on the floor or whatever. And then Jerry to just be like shocked that he did what he just did. I'm like, that would have been a lot funnier. And George be like, why did you hit me? Why did you hit me? I don't know. I don't know what came over me. That would have been hilarious.
Steve's written a whole scene, an alternate ending to the show.
Yeah, the whole thing. I'm like just imagining his glasses going flying, and then like he comes back, he's got this bloody nose, like one of his.
Steve does not like George.
Oh no, I would have loved that to happen to George. I like George in later seasons, but in these early seasons when he's supposedly successful, George, screw that guy. George introduces the next investment opportunity. A robot butcher.
Robot butcher?
Further evidence that the people writing this show We're like, screw it.
Over it.
It's due tomorrow. Just turn whatever you got in. It's just like, seriously, is this what we're writing here? A robot butcher? It's like
Robot butcher.
Kind of like we've said before about some of these other things. Is like it would make more sense if it was actually funny, or if it was intentionally unfunny. But it's in that weird, awkward, uncanny valley of it being like, that's a line that's not funny that I can tell was supposed to be funny.
Right.
That's the worst.
Who greenlighted that?
Yeah. Either be really funny or be really unfunny. When you're in the middle, it's just the worst, and it's awkward.
It's the worst.
We've seen that time and time again. George pays for the meal like the big man and then rips $1 out of the waitress's hand.
Taking the single $1 bill, because I looked to see how much the bill was.
I did too. Like, is that a 5? Is that a 10? Like, is he like, because he's acting like he's a big spender here.
Yeah. That triggers me, because I see that all the time. People will have no problem spending, $38, adding all kinds of things to their food. But then when it comes time for that, it's like to the tip, like, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But, come on. Like, that's the one. We've already spent this much. Give me that $1 back.
Yeah, exactly.
The $1 is making a difference at this point,
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the same breath, he's like, order it, don't finish it, who cares? I got all kinds of money, but I am gonna need that $1 back. Like, that triggers me a little bit.
Final scene, stand up. There's nothing wrong with this scene. It's okay. But it is the most unmemorable portion of stand-up, I think, of any of the shows that we have just yet. I literally have no comment about it. Do you have anything about this?
The only thing I have written down is, I am not a stock person or a gambler.
Oh, the whole making money work for you.
So it did not relate to me.
Yeah. You got to have money to invest in stocks. So, yeah. Like I said, that whole stand-up sequence there was just so forgettable. There was nothing.
Oh yeah, I remember your money. We had to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's unfunny. It's just not good. It's just like, or not great. Maybe it's good. It's not great. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
It wouldn't be how I would put. It wouldn't be the cherry on top of the episode. Like it's supposed to be.
Because all in all, while there are some frustrating things, I think it's a pretty solid episode. You even said last week, I think, that you're like, I think this is the best one of the season.
I stand by it. I think this was the best episode of all of them.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. Like I said, there are some things about it where I'm like, seriously, like the robot butcher and the televising electronic thingy for televising opera. I'm just like, what is this crap? But
Kramer being a weirdo.
Kramer being, creeping on these women.
Yeah, creepo.
So Ovaltine time.
It is Ovaltine time.
I think I will agree with you that of season 1, this is probably the strongest episode. Out of 10 Ovaltines, how many do you want to give this one?
I give it a 6.
Giving it a 6. I was going to give it a 6 as well. So we're united at 6 Ovaltines for this episode.
Wow, that's a Boca Vista first, I think.
it might be, actually. It is
agreed.
the first time we've agreed. I am going to put the previous scores up here just so you can see how all of season 1 scored. Yeah, there you go, right there. How all of season 1 scored for Ovaltine ratings and stuff like that. But
I don't see anything.
Well, Adam.
All right, it's the last time I'm going to make that joke, but it was really funny.
That's a callback. I did enjoy this episode. It's not perfect, but it's a season 1 episode of Seinfeld. And I think for it to get a nice solid 6 from us, I think says a lot about where this episode sits in the context of the entire season,
Right.
Like I said, I was watching this last night with my daughter. and it ran like when that episode finished. I was watching on Netflix this time. It goes immediately into the first episode of season 2, and I am very excited to start talking about season 2. There's some really good episodes in that season. The show still has not found its footing. I don't think it really finds it until getting into season 3, really. But season 2 definitely a lot better than season 1. So yeah, if you enjoy the show, make sure you leave a like, make sure you press the subscribe button. If you like hearing our witty banter and maybe think, hey, I might like to hear him talk about something other than Seinfeld. We do quite a few other things around here that you can watch and have a good time with. Most of them involving not even having to watch anything, because you can watch this with the screen off. We did actually, and I'm going to put the link in the description. We did recently upload the audio of all previous episodes of Welcome to Boca Vista to Anchor FM or Anchor.fm. Which distributes the podcast to really any major podcast provider. So like if you use like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts, whatever, Welcome to Boca Vista can be listened to through those apps. Just go in there and search for Welcome to Boca Vista, Beer Clock, something like that, whatever you'll find us. Or I will put the link down below in the description. So
did you hear that, Legion? We're famous.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, Mom. I'm doing something with my life. No, man, we appreciate you guys watching. Adam, anything to say here as we sign off?
No, other than, I think you put a cap on it. If you like what you saw, please give us a like and a sub. Leave us a comment. I know we say that every time. We are big on the comments. So whether you agree with us, disagree with us, have a different point, or, just say like, I'm just here for the comments. That works too. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But
I'm going to give a shout out to our friend Hanan, who has been commenting on every episode and always shares different words that she learned in English from watching Seinfeld. I think that's just awesome. But the specific words I remember in this episode, it was this word and blah blah blah. Man, I just think that's so freaking cool. So please continue to share. If you're enjoying the show, like I said, share it with your friends and whatnot. We appreciate you watching, listening, all that stuff.
But you're not getting our water pick.
Hoochie Mama! I beat you to the Hoochie Mama this time.
I wanted to differ. I was deviating from Hoochie Mama.
You're not giving away our water pick. Why can't you buy a new shirt?
You can't even taste it.
George, I'm hungry. In a minute, Ma.
Oh, man, I love the doll episode.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the best.
Oh, man.